Hello, and welcome to Awkward Double Bills, a podcast in which a cinephile and a genre fan try to broaden each other's cinematic horizons one film at a time. Each episode, we will be discussing two films, one chosen by me, Matt Schaefer,
and one chosen by me, Rob Takizawa Lowe. In this episode, we'll be discussing Robert Wise's The Haunting from 1963 and Billy Wilder's The Apartment from 1960. We'll talk about what the films were trying to do, what we think of them, and try to see them through each other's eyes. These discussions will be filled with spoilers, so please keep that in mind before listening.
At the end of the episode, we'll try and figure out how the two movies could possibly work together as an awkward double bill.
Okay, before we get to today's films, Matt, what have you been watching recently?
Okay, I do have a new thing that I've been watching recently, this episode. I'm about halfway through the series Pluribus. Have you heard of Pluribus?
You told me about it the other day, but for the benefit of the listeners, what's
Yes.
Pluribus? I've no idea.
It's a TV show. It's from the creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan. Have you seen either of those series?
I saw the first few seasons of Better Call Saul, and then it turned into like a crime thing. And I'm not interested in crime. I just liked him being a wacky lawyer. So I stopped watching at that point, which apparently is a bad idea, but you know.
All right. So yeah, Breaking Bad came first, and then Better Call Saul is the prequel. But Breaking Bad, as you can probably imagine, is all about crime.
Yes. So I didn't watch it.
Yes. And so I think a lot of people, when Better Call Saul started, they were waiting for the crime part to start, and you're the opposite.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Pluribus, there's technically, I guess there's no crime in it, or very little crime. I guess it's more of a comedy than Breaking Bad, even maybe about the same as Better Call Saul. It's got it's high concept. It's got this kind of, very, very big thing that happens in the first episode. And then it's just following the main character as she deals with that. Yeah, it's well written, well acted, well directed. If you like that style, it's very much the same style as Better Call Saul. Yeah, and it's like because of the concept, you are sort of hooked just by that and just wanting to see how the whole thing plays out.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's so much high, not necessarily high concept, but high production dramas and that kind of thing around. It's impossible to keep up with every recommendation for them because each series takes you like several weeks to watch, or it takes me several weeks to watch. And everyone's got their own favorite series, and it's a nightmare. And there's so much, like Doctor Who extended universe stuff that I could be watching instead. So why?
Yeah.
Why would I waste time with some prestige drama?
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen The Wire. I've never seen. There's a lot of series I haven't seen all of. I haven't seen all of Mad Men or The Sopranos. So I'm very much not caught up with all the prestige drama. But yeah, I mean, this one it came out a while ago and I just started it recently. But I'd say I'm hooked. It's only 8 episodes as far as I know, so I'll stick to it to the end.
Okay.
The other thing I saw was the new Spider-Man movie. I took my younger daughter to that. Yeah.
Was that good?
It was good. Yes.
Was it Tom Holland's Spider-Man?
It was Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I think this is his 4th Spider-Man. He's still Spider-Man. I guess this one they explore both the Spider and the Man parts.
Okay. Don't they do that in every Spider-Man?
I guess so. Not so much. Maybe the earlier ones. Maybe the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield ones. They got to that eventually. I think this is the first one where they really delve into that for Tom Holland.
Okay. Who's your favorite of the 3 Spider-Men so far?
That's a tricky question. I mean, I feel like I said it early on, but I think everybody says it now, which is that Tom Holland was the best. Not Tom Holland. Tobey Maguire was the best Peter Parker, and Andrew Garfield was the best Spider-Man. And Tom Holland is the best at sort of being both. Maybe he's not a better Peter Parker than Tobey Maguire, and he's maybe not a better Spider-Man than Andrew Garfield, but he averages out as the best. That makes sense.
I see. He's the medium porridge of the 3 Spider-Mans if they were being tasted by a Goldilocks.
Yes. Yeah. He's the Goldilocks Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been reading through the old Spider-Man comics. I've read about the first 100 issues, and Peter Parker starts off as like a proper bloody drip, right? Like he's not cool at all. And then by this point, 100 issues in, he's very cool, and all the ladies want him, and he's awesome. And he starts out as very much the Tobey Maguire, and he ends up as very much the Andrew Garfield. And I can't think of a time where he's really the Tom Holland. I think like the character of Peter Parker, and to be honest, the character of Peter Parker evolves a lot based on basically whatever the writer's kind of preferences are. Like at one point, he's like a sort of cynical, anti-student protest guy, and then later on, he's like kind of, a sort of crusading against racism and stuff. And he's a bit all over the place as a character.
So 100 issues, you're still in the 60s, I guess, at this point.
I imagine so. I don't really know where I am year-wise.
I mean, I read a lot of Spider-Man as a kid, but I was reading Spider-Man. I was just reading the issues that were coming out, each month at the time. So this was mid-'80s, basically. And by then, Spider-Man, he was already sort of an adult. He had graduated university, or I don't know I can't remember if he finished university or not. But anyway, he was working as a photographer for the Daily Bugle, and he had sort of serious relationships. But I felt his character was fairly consistent by then. He was a sort of not super confident, always doubting himself. Would gain a bit more confidence when he put on the outfit.
Yeah, I think he goes back and forth. Like very early on, he's a complete drip. And now he's at a point where he's like very, very confident, but he's constantly doubting himself. That's sort of the essence of the character. Like, oh, I love being Spider-Man, but I hate being Spider-Man. That's what he does. Yeah. But there are just several points where it feels like they change writers or something, and he just takes on whatever biases the writers have at the time. And I don't know if that's true because I haven't bothered to go and check the writers. Maybe it is just one guy going through a sort of personality crisis all the time, but it feels a little bit, bit wibbly wobbly, a bit flip floppy. But I don't think films really have to slavishly follow the comics anyway. So who cares?
No, not at all. But I mean, if you are a fan of the comic, if you spend a lot of time with the character, you want him to be at least somewhat similar. My problem with Andrew Garfield was just as Peter Parker, he felt too confident and like a bit mean sometimes. Which I guess Peter Parker could be, but yeah, for me, he didn't work as Peter Parker.
Yeah, I agree. I liked his relationship with Gwen Stacy, though. I thought that who was it, Emma Stone? Yeah, I thought they had a very convincing relationship, more convincing than the Tobey Maguire Kirsten Dunst relationship. They felt more like a couple, like people who'd actually get on in real life. Whereas like the Peter Parker Kirsten Dunst thing was like, what? I don't see them as a couple in real life.
No, I mean, I guess it's maybe the time as well. I mean, it's not that long ago, but I think movies have changed since then, and it felt, maybe it's just the style, but it felt like more like they were giving performances. Yeah. So, and then obviously Tom Holland and Zendaya, I think, are a couple in real life, as far as I know. Yeah. So they took it one step further.
Yeah, they could bring their on-screen chemistry to the screen. Yeah.
So what have you been consuming?
Well, not a huge amount. I've been rewatching some stuff. My sister's here for a few days, meeting our tiny child. So I've been rewatching some things with her. I rewatched Godzilla -1, which I thought was very good. A very good prequel to Godzilla. Although I'm surprised they waited all the time since 1998 to make a prequel to the original masterpiece.
The Matthew Broderick one.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, I thought it was very good. And Final Destination Bloodlines, which is like the revival Final Destination film. And I love the Final Destination films, and it's the best Final Destination film. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that. The other thing that I've been doing is going on walks at night. And at the moment, I know that you hate Doctor Who, but I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and it seems like it's heading into a second Wilderness Years. It's basically been put on hiatus and been put out for tender because the last 5 series were pretty god awful in my opinion. But the extended universe has been, rattling along as it does. There's a company called Big Finish that produces audio dramas and has been doing since the 90s. and I've been catching up on some of the modern audio dramas, and particularly, so the 13th incarnation of the Doctor was the first one played by a woman, if you don't count Joanna Lumley in the Children in Need special or Comic Relief special or whatever.
I do, but okay.
Okay, well, I mean, what you say goes. That's canon now. But yeah, like her Doctor, I felt was quite poorly written and didn't really seem to fit the character. Seemed quite out of character compared to previous incarnations. So I was but I thought it was a shame because I thought she's very good. Jodie Whittaker, very good actress. I thought that she would be a great Doctor, and I thought there was a lot in there that could have worked. So I was curious to see how they would deal with her Doctor in these audio dramas, and I think they're great. I think she's fantastic. I think it fleshes out the relationship between her and Yaz, her companion, a lot better. And they're just nice, short, sort of standalone stories. So yeah, I've been really enjoying just listening to those and seeing Jodie Whittaker have a chance to shine as the Doctor. So yeah, that's what I've been enjoying.
Okay. Does Doctor Who work in audio format if the main draw was the fantastic production values?
I mean, the main draw isn't necessarily the fantastic. Well, you're joking. You're joking. You're making fun of Doctor Who and it's charming lo-fi design. But actually, like the last couple of series, like the Jodie Whittaker series and the most recent one with Ncuti Gatwa, did have like pretty good production design. So you maybe would think that you'd be losing that if you were a fan of only those two series. But it does work really well actually as an audio drama, especially when they're not trying to do like big sci-fi stories, when they're focusing on kind of small things like kind of murder mystery type stuff, or just like a mystery's introduced at the start and then they're just trying to solve it as they go through. And I think that the early Doctor Who dramas that I listened to, they didn't quite get the descriptions of the place and the setting, that locked in. So it was difficult to sort of imagine and follow what was happening and then moving from place to place. Now they've really got that sorted out. So I think, for any Doctor Who fans out there, these are well worth listening to, and they're pretty cheap as well, the new ones. So yeah, they're good.
Okay. I was going to say, thank God they didn't make any Doctor Who films, so I don't have to watch one for this podcast. But I'm guessing maybe they have made a Doctor Who film?
They've made, do you count the TV movie starring Paul McGann?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if are we allowing TV movies for this podcast?
Well, I think we should, so that I can make you watch the TV movie starring Paul McGann. No, they did actually make two Doctor Who movies in the 60s, starring Peter Cushing as the Doctor. And they are basically remakes of two of the early William Hartnell serials, The Daleks and The Dalek Invasion of Earth. And Peter Cushing's very good at the Doctor, but his Doctor is not a Time Lord. His Doctor is just a human inventor, and like a lot of the kind of lore of the characters rewritten. So they're quite good, fun films, I think. I watched them a lot when I was a kid, but they're not great Doctor Who films. So you might like them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, should we jump into our film discussions?
Yes, let's.
God, it knows I'm here.
Based on a story by Shirley Jackson, 1963's The Haunting is considered a classic of supernatural cinema. The film follows Eleanor Lance, who's recruited by Dr. John Markway to investigate paranormal phenomena at the reputedly haunted Hill House. Eleanor, a buttoned-up woman who has spent years caring for her ailing mother, sees this as an opportunity to finally do something with her life. However, as the house starts to take hold of her, and as Eleanor's mental state unravels, the film leaves the audience questioning whether the phenomena experienced in the house are best explained as psychological or supernatural. Let's turn to our discussion of The Haunting.
Stop it!
Okay, Rob, this was your choice for this episode. Why did you choose The Haunting?
Well, we haven't done a lot of ghost stories. We've done a surprising number of zombie stories. And we did Lake Mungo, which is the ghost story, but we haven't done any real sort of classic ghost stories. So I thought it would be fun to have a look at a ghost story. And also, we've done quite a lot of kind of cult film and genre film, which is, obviously my contribution to the podcast. But I thought it might be nice to look at a film which is considered a bit more of a sort of cinematic classic, a classic ghost story. We've got Robert Wise, director of The Sound of Music and so on, and Star Trek: The Motion Picture, obviously his finest achievement. And so, I thought since you hadn't seen The Haunting, and since it kind of crosses both of our worlds, I thought it might be nice to cap off our first 10 episodes by looking at a supernatural horror cinema classic. So what was your experience of seeing The Haunting for the first time?
It was interesting. It was I was thinking maybe from that time period. So this is 1963, as you said. I don't know if I've seen many of these types of films. I couldn't really put it into any, or I couldn't like attach it to any other similar films that I'd seen. And so in that way, it was interesting. Could definitely see some of the, haunted house tropes or things that I'd for example, I've seen earlier horror films. I've seen, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. Is it Cat People? Jacques Tourneur, maybe. So some of those earlier ones. But yeah, maybe this type of haunted house film, and I've seen later ones. I've seen the is it late 90s? I guess it's a remake, or it's based on the same book, The Haunting, with Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah,
am I remembering
that's
that right?
Yes. Liam Neeson plays the house.
Plays the house, yeah. Yeah, so it was interesting. I mean, as a film watching experience, I guess I didn't really know where it was going, which helped. It's very much of its time. I mean, what's interesting is that it's not too far away, time wise, from any and sort of not genre, but it came another Hollywood studio film from a similar time period, from the other film that we're going to talk about today. And so there's some maybe similarities in terms of the acting style, although it's a different genre, and the script. Slightly heightened language in the script. Yes, and a lot of the production I liked. The house itself was great. The moments where it's meant to be scary, for me, those were mainly the loud banging in the hallway on the walls. I thought those worked well. Overall, I'm not sure how much I enjoyed it when I got to the end. I don't know if I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't really expecting anything specific. And I appreciated the ambiguity of it. But maybe it also felt like a little damp by the end. I'm not sure.
Okay. You're expecting something bigger.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, nothing really happens, I guess, is one point. And that's fine, I guess. I thought what felt like the climax, I guess it was a kind of climax, when Nell is going up the spiral staircase that we've already established is rickety and prone to fall. And then the doctor, John, goes up for some absurd reason, follows her up there.
To bring her back down.
And then John's wife suddenly pops out of a hidden panel up there.
Yeah.
I mean, as a sort of climactic moment, I wasn't sure like if that was the greatest, if that was the best payoff. Actually, to me, the best moment in the film was when the wife showed up.
Okay.
When John's wife showed up, because it was sort of, I think they played it very, they sort of teased it out very nicely, very subtly, and you weren't sure if it was happening, but you slowly become aware that Nell likes John, is attracted to John, and it just and throughout most of the film, John doesn't mention the fact that he has a wife, and then when Nell kind of when she sort of explicitly says to Theo that she does like him, it's like the very next moment, the very next scene, that John's wife shows up. So just as a piece of sort of devastating drama, I thought that was great. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about Eleanor a little bit, because obviously the whole film sort of revolves around her. What did you think about the way that she was presented, her character? She wants to go to Hill House because, like I said in the introduction, she feels like nothing's really happened in her life. She's been sort of restricted, held back by having to look after her mother. She's living on the sofa of her sister and brother, I think. Or sister and brother-in-law, I should say, because they're yeah. And so this is her opportunity to do something, and then she becomes kind of obsessed with the house. How do you think that she was portrayed? How did you feel about that performance, like characterization?
I thought she was a very interesting character. I thought that worked. I thought it was very interesting, her character, because it could have been very one note. It could have just been she's this sort of meek woman who was maybe bullied by her mother into taking care of her mother, and then not having any other kind of life, and that's definitely part of her. And she's, from the beginning, she's yearning for something else, yearning for like connection with other people. It feels like being accepted somewhere. But also she and at times she's very meek, but then at other times she's very strong, and she does stand up to herself. When like Theo bullies her a little bit, and it's not really clear why. Well, again, I think Theo's an interesting character too, because you're never really sure if Theo's like actually bullying her. At one point, she bullies her, and then the doctor says, "Oh, like, Nell, don't worry. Like, she's just doing that to make you forget about your fears." So like Theo is doing it in a nice way, but then later on, it feels like she is being kind of mean as well.
Well, you mentioned the ambiguity. I think the ambiguity is it's on several different levels. Like, first of all, are the events happening because of the supernatural forces that are said to inhabit the house? Are they happening, or are they just basically Eleanor projecting, herself onto the house, and whatever? It's just a psychological thing that she's going through. Are the other characters kind of setting her up in a way? Like, are they gaslighting her because they want to try and get some kind of reaction? Like John Markway is very obsessed with finding supernatural things going on in the house. He's kind of staked his reputation on it, right? And he's found these two people, Eleanor and Theo, who are supposedly prone to psychic events, or supernatural events. They're kind of magnets for supernatural forces. And so maybe him and her, John and Theo, kind of trying to provoke Eleanor into manifesting or having some kind of breakthrough with the paranormal. We don't know, but there are sort of hints at all of those different explanations for what's happening all the way through. And everyone's motivations seem a little bit mixed up. Like you say, John Markway, the doctor, he doesn't, like, he's kind of playing with Elle's feelings, like with Eleanor's feelings. Like, he knows that she's interested in him, and he keeps sort of dropping little hints that maybe she is, that he's interested in her as well. Like, he says, "Oh, a natural beauty," that kind of thing. So I kind of read it this time a little bit more that way, that they're all trying to provoke her into this, maybe because they think that it's going to result in some kind of real supernatural occurrence, but perhaps they actually, just provoke her into a sort of state of mental distress. So, I think the ambiguity is played very, very nicely, and it can be read in a few different ways.
Yes, I agree. I think that's the main strength of the film, is that ambiguity. We get to the end and we don't even know if there anything supernatural at all ever happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so on that level, it works really well. But then I think the challenge for the film then is to then still make it kind of exciting in a way. It is exciting. I was never bored watching it. But maybe towards the end, I started thinking, I think, something, hopefully something will happen, basically. And something does happen, but it's just not that exciting. I don't know.
I think that it depends what your expectations are for this kind of film, right? I mean,
Mm.
if you look at contemporary reviews and audience reactions, people found this film absolutely terrifying in 1963. And I think you can kind of see why, because it does play those maybe supernatural, maybe not events really nicely, right? The banging, the hand holding scene, you know, my favorite bit where the door starts bowing inwards. All that kind of stuff is just done so subtly and so cleverly, and it doesn't scare us today. But you know, we're not watching it as a, you know, we shouldn't be watching it as a modern day audience and thinking, well, why isn't this as exciting as Final Destination Bloodlines? You know,
Sure.
It's a film of its time.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think we'll probably say something similar about The Apartment, that it's a film of its time, and certain elements probably don't translate to the modern day. But that doesn't mean you can't appreciate them for what they were.
Yes. Yeah. And like I said, you know, I did appreciate the scene. You know, I was imagining if I was in the house, I'd be terrified. Certainly, like that, and that banging and the sound design with the banging and everything was great. And yeah, and then I was also thinking, if this film were made today, and I think, I mean, like there was the '90s version, and I think there was an even more recent version.
There was the TV series, which I've not watched all of, because again, I don't watch these long TV series. But it was made by Mike Flanagan, who made, you know, he's sort of the big names in horror at the moment. So I probably should finish watching it.
Yeah. They and maybe it's something from the book, I'm not sure. And they kind of hint at it in this film, but I think like nowadays they would reveal some kind, like she has some kind of connection to the, you know, in her history, some kind of connection to the house, or she's like the long lost, you know, grandniece of somebody. I think that they would try to, you know, have some kind of big reveal, some kind of connection. So I did appreciate that they didn't do that, but then they're kind of painting themselves into a corner a little bit by not giving us like a big moment. And I think when they, like the big moment that they did have of her going up the spiral staircase, and maybe it's just a small, you know, a small complaint, but it didn't quite pull that off for me. But like I said, you know, the characters are very interesting. You know, I didn't find Nell particularly likable character, or like, you know, somebody I'd want to spend time with.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's, you know, I think that's why Theo's there, because Theo is, you know, she's a much more interesting, she's the kind of person you would want to maybe hang around with. And she is, you know, she is complicated in her own way. I like I think there was one point, I can't remember if it was John, I think it was John who asked maybe them, you know, what are you scared of? And they were just talking kind of generally and, you know, about themselves. And Nell said she's scared of being left out or left alone. And then Theo says that she's scared of knowing what she really wants, which I thought was interesting. And then this is just setting up when they find the writing on the wall, the Eleanor come home writing. Yeah. That Luke finds. But I thought it was great. I mean, I think it's a well-constructed screenplay. So when Nell says that she's scared of being left out or left alone, you assume that she'll be faced with that, you know, that big fear of hers is what she'll be faced with, which I guess she is at the end. I mean, they basically kick her out. She's found the one place where she thought she found friends and a home, and she's being forced to leave it. So she's had to confront her worst fear in a way. Maybe they missed an opportunity, or I don't know, you know, with Theo saying she's scared of knowing what she really wants. I'm not sure if she ever was confronted with that. I mean, she's not the main character. But as far as I could tell, she wasn't really confronted with that, knowing what she wants. There was a moment when, again, it's kept ambiguous, but if Theo also was interested in Nell, or how attracted to Nell she was.
Well, that was what I thought that line was in reference to.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, maybe it was that, because when Nell is leaving, I mean, being forced to go, she does call back to Theo, and I think Theo comes running over and says, "Oh, like thank God! I thought you were going to leave without saying goodbye."
Yeah. It's interesting. You talked about the the kind of the structure of the ghost story, right? These days they might have some kind of connection that they would reveal. I've been watching the BBC series, The Ghost Stories for Christmas, which they used to release them annually. They started with Whistle and I'll Come to You, and then they released the Ash Tree and the Stalls of Barchester and that kind of thing. And they've started making new ones as well, which are largely, I think, produced and often written by Mark Gatiss from the League of Gentlemen. And one of them that I watched recently was the Mezzotint. A lot of these are based on M.R. James stories, and the Mezzotint is based on an M.R. James story. And at the end of the Mezzotint, it is revealed that the main character has some connection to the house that's shown in the Mezzotint, and that leads to the reveal of a creepy ghost that's coming to get him, right? And I got a copy of the M.R. James complete ghost stories, which I've been reading, and I read the Mezzotint, and that's not there. And then I went back and read an interview with Mark Gatiss, and he was like, "Oh yeah, well, I put that in because I felt that we really needed that for the story to work." But I think maybe that's just what ghost stories were like. Like when I'm reading these old M.R. James stories, I'm struck that that's really how these ghost stories are constructed. There is a creepy ghost, and it's creepy, and it's creepy in some way, and that's kind of what it is, So I think that, actually, the remake of The Haunting does have the Eleanor character having a connection to the house and the ghosts, which are very much there in the remake. And and she has like a big dramatic moment where she gets the ghost to come out and all that, and it's shit. It's fucking rubbish. So I don't think the film would have been any better for that, like you say. I think it would have probably harmed it to have Eleanor have some kind of connection, and it would have damaged the ambiguity as well. I think I mean, for me, the whole film is basically it's billed as a supernatural horror, but it's basically a character study, right? And it's just an exercise in sort of tension and looking at how this character sort of responds to the tension, how it affects her mental state, and it just gives us as the audience a lot to think about, a lot to wonder about. Like we leave with with nothing but questions, essentially.
Yes, yeah.
And I mean, even the reactions of like Dr. Markway and everyone at the end, I was saying before, maybe he's sort of engineered this, maybe all the characters are sort of engineering this. But at the end, they're all left together. There's no one else there sort of eavesdropping who might hear them go, "Oh, well, we didn't plan for that to happen," but they don't behave as if they'd been doing anything to spur her into those actions. So even then, you're kind of left thinking, well, maybe there were some ghostly ghouly goblins around.
Sure, yeah, and her voiceover, which we get from the moment we meet her, we get her inner thoughts. We get one at the end after she's died, basically kind of saying that she's now one of the ghosts haunting the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the message. I mean, I don't know if there's a message, but it also felt a little odd. I mean, she hints throughout the film that she's had suicidal thoughts. And there is a sense at the end where it feels like she'd rather die than leave the house. Basically, that's she feels so connected to the house, and then feels kind of okay with having died and become a ghost. And I don't think the film is like justifying her suicide or anything. But I guess it's maybe like the ghost story version of somebody finding their place, finding where they belong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing is that maybe there isn't anywhere else for her. Like maybe there isn't anywhere else in the world. Like it's kind of too late in her life to do something else. Maybe especially in the society of the 1960s, maybe there isn't really a place for a person like her. She's sort of she's been locked away for so long. She doesn't have a lot in the way of skills. She's socially kind of all over the place. She doesn't have a great control on her temper. She's mentally fragile. Maybe there wasn't anywhere else for her to be apart from in Hill House.
Yeah, I guess so. It's kind of sad.
Even a family. Well, it is sad. I mean, it's a sad film.
Yes. Yeah. And then maybe that's the happiest ending that she could have had, is that she is going to stay at Hill House forever.
Yeah. Was what she wanted.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not sad.
Well, but it's sad that is
She's-
what she wanted.
Okay, yes, that's true.
Yeah. What did you think of Dr. Markway, Richard Johnson?
I thought it was interesting how, I mean, he's presented as both like an esteemed academic and somebody who studies the supernatural. I like the whole, his whole backstory about and how he ended up in anthropology, and then how that got him to the supernatural studies. It's interesting. He does come across a lot as a bit of a charlatan, and sort of manipulative of the people around him. I didn't like him much. I mean, I like the performance, and I think it's a tricky performance because he is a sort of slightly ambiguous character. But yeah, I didn't like Dr. John Markway much.
No, well, I think you're not meant to. I think you're supposed to note that he is, as you say, very charming. He's obviously going out of his way to put across a certain image of himself, and I think that's one thing that his wife showing up serves to sort of puncture, right? Like his sort of air of, I'm a very important and distinguished professor, and she shows up and it's like, you're a bloody idiot, mate. Ooh, you searching for ghosts?
Yeah,
I
she
really
was much
appreciate
cooler
that.
than him.
Yeah. But you can see how his image that he's sort of constructing for himself would be very appealing to Eleanor, right? He seems like the kind of sophisticated person that she would want to associate herself with, and obviously, I mean that was the other thing. Like he's, like I said before, he's very keen for his research to yield results, right? And whenever the supernatural events are happening, he never seems to go to bed. Like everyone else goes to bed, and he's always up and just wandering around and stuff. And so, like, I was wondering, is that meant to imply that whenever there's like the knocking on the doors and things like that, that's just him with a stick, trying to stir things up? Because it's like, he's always there. He's always at the scene of the crime, and he's always fully dressed, and he never really seems to be retired, and he's always like, I don't know, a few steps away from being caught red-handed, it feels to me.
They pull his mask off, and he's the groundsman, and they pull another mask off, and he's the
groundsman would be the
groundsman,
guy who refused to open the gate at the start.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying,
he's the one who's orchestrating it all.
He's just dressed
to scare
up as
them
John
away
Markway.
because he didn't want Eleanor coming in at the beginning, so he's orchestrating all these hauntings. But then he would have invited her as well, so it didn't make sense.
That's true. I liked Mrs. Groundsman. The way she just repeats the same thing. Like, I love when she's trying to be annoying and they just won't let her. That was quite funny. I guess besides the banging and the writing, which could all be explained by the groundsman or somebody doing it for Markway. I guess this could also be part of Markway's setup. But one argument or one bit of evidence for the supernatural is what happens to his wife, Grace. Because she comes very skeptical, and then she disappears. She stays in the nursery. She disappears, and then she shows up very frazzled. So I guess we read it either they collaborated on it to scare Nell, or something genuinely happened to her.
Yeah, or she just wandered through the wrong door in that big house with all the crazy angles and things that's designed to be disorientating. I mean, the other thing is when the door bows inwards. I mean, you could do that, I guess, but that'd be quite a complex setup.
Yes. What were they had various possible explanations that they repeated. Like, was it gas under the house, or I can't remember. A few natural phenomena.
Swamp.
And the other thing is, he wasn't I'm not sure about his research data collection instruments. He never seemed to be actually writing anything down or collecting any evidence of all the stuff that was going on.
Yeah, I was just remembering it. He was going to write it down later.
Get ChatGPT to write it up for him later.
Yeah. That was just how you did anthropology in the 60s. You just wandered in somewhere, and then later you sat down in your armchair and wrote an account of what had happened.
Right, yeah. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this film in that it's one that I want to sit down and watch again and again and again. Because, you know, it's of its time. For me as a horror fan, I think it's a great film, but it's not an exciting film. I really enjoyed rewatching it this time because I was watching it in a kind of intentional way, trying to get to terms with the story and the characters and that kind of thing. I enjoy watching films in that way from time to time. But I think it's notable for being just a very, very good example of a haunted house story that's not like, you know, Boo Haunted House. It's very cleverly setting up the different characters and all the ambiguity and all the, you know, and the fact that it leaves the audience with lots and lots of questions. I think it's just a really interesting film, and it's a classic of the horror genre.
Yes. Yeah, very interesting, you know, well directed, like good use of angles and, you know, camera movement. And then we forgot to mention maybe also the other, you know, creepiest part was the faces on the walls that she, you know, she sees on the patterns on the wall.
Yeah.
And then the laughing and the crying and all that stuff. Very, very effective scene.
Yes. Yeah. Well, are you interested in checking out more of Robert Wise's work?
Well, I've seen quite a bit. I've seen West Side Story. I've seen Sound of Music. I have seen Star Trek: The Motion Picture. That's what he did, the first one.
Yeah. First and worst.
Yes. Probably others too. I mean, he's a Hollywood legend.
Yeah. The only other sort of thing that I noticed on this watch through, which I can't believe I didn't notice before, is that Richard Johnson, who plays Dr. John Markway, also stars in Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2.
Oh,
as a doctor. Yeah.
Okay.
So when we watch Zombie 2, which we're definitely going to watch, you'll get we'll get some linkages going.
Right. I mean, I was very excited to see Russ Tamblyn, who played Luke. Who I think he's famous for West Side Story, but also for Twin Peaks. He's a significant character in Twin Peaks as well, which is I think what I originally knew him from.
There's a lot of Twin Peaks crossover going on in this show. I'll have to actually watch Twin Peaks at some point.
Yeah, I mean that might be. I mean, we could definitely do Fire Walk with Me, the film. That I'm not sure whose that would be. It's a horror film by a sort of, I guess, what might be considered a sort of prestige director.
Maybe we'll do a crossover where you choose a horror or genre film, and I try and choose a bit of cinematic history.
Yes, with middle class people and their problems.
Yeah, well, I'll just choose a Buster Keaton film.
Okay, sure.
Watch the door, please. Blasting off.
Following the huge success of 1959's Some Like It Hot, writer I.A.L. Diamond and writer-director Billy Wilder wanted to quickly make another movie with Jack Lemmon, resulting in 1960's The Apartment. Inspired by Noel Coward's Brief Encounter and the true-life stories of underlings at Hollywood studios having to let their bosses use their apartments for secret trysts, The Apartment tells the story of the lowly but ambitious insurance office worker, C.C. Baxter, the elevator girl, Fran Kubelik, who he pines for, and the married head of personnel, Mr. Sheldrake, who she is waiting for in the hope that he finally leaves his wife. So, let's head over to The Apartment.
How could I be so stupid? When you're in love with a married man, you shouldn't wear mascara.
Okay, so this was your pick. Why did you choose The Apartment?
Just because it's a great movie, I think. I've seen it a few times over the years. Always liked it. I'm a big Jack Lemmon fan, from his early stuff to his later stuff. Comedy, drama. I think he's always great. This film, I mean, for me, it's Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. It's their two performances, and I mean, obviously, it's got a great script. I think it's sort of quirky. It's unusual. It's, you know, it's not I guess, I mean, maybe you could break it down, and it sort of has an obvious story structure, but it feels very unusual. It feels a bit more, maybe even European, sort of long scenes that just carry on. Just a film I like, and you said you hadn't heard it, so I thought you might appreciate this one. What did you think?
Yeah, I really liked it. It's it's the kind of apartment is the kind of film that I've not seen a huge amount of. I don't think I've ever seen a Billy Wilder film. What else did Billy Wilder make? I've not seen Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot, Double Indemnity.
Oh yeah, I've got that on Blu-ray actually. I didn't realize that was a Gene Wilder film. I like that one. So I it's not the kind of film I would normally gravitate towards, but I thought it was very well put together. I thought that, like you say, the central performances were fantastic. I thought Jack Lemmon was really good. I thought that Shirley MacLaine was great. I thought even the supporting cast were mostly very good. We got some slightly broad performances from the guys who are just going, "Come on, buddy boy," blah, blah, like that. And I found those slightly annoying, but they're sort of a type. Fred McMurray, I thought, was sort of convincingly an aging handsome man who had he sort of nicely veered between being sort of charming and being threatening, and being charming and being uncaring. And I thought that he played his part very well. I thought that there were certain points where I was with any of this kind of comedy, where it's like a comedy of misunderstandings, where someone is getting their character kind of unfairly impugned all the way through. Whenever I get to the end, I feel like I would be unsatisfied to some extent with this ending if I was this guy, because everyone still thinks like I'm a dreadful person that almost caused this woman to die. And he never actually, in those films, I never understand, why don't you just go to your neighbor and explain what happened? Like they always leave it sort of unsaid. And there does seem to be like a trend of that in these comedies of misunderstandings. And it just irritates me, because I just think I would want to go and clear my name and say, well, look, I know what it looks like, right? But you've got the wrong end of the stick. I'm a nice guy. So anyway,
it's almost like a plot hole. Like they could solve that little thing pretty easily. Yeah. For me, it felt like it was sort of an admirable thing about his character that he didn't care that much, like what other people thought about him. Perhaps. Okay. Yeah, I mean, what did you think of his character in general?
Well, I mean, obviously he starts off, he's a bit like Spider-Man. He starts off like Peter Parker. He starts off as a bit wet, like ambitious, but I don't know. There's obviously a sort of negative element to his character, right? All the way through. I mean, it's kind of the arc of his character. He's ambitious, but he's sort of willing to take shortcuts to get where he wants to be, because he's allowing people to use his apartment, and he's allowing himself to be stepped on a little bit, with the understanding that it's going to help his career, right? And there are several points where he sort of tries to stand up for himself, and the other characters go, well, we could, this is going to damage your position in the company or whatever, and then he gives up, right? And so I think he's obviously a nice guy. He's a little bit of a doormat, but I think there is a sort of a bit of over-ambitiousness in his character, which is allowing him to sort of cheat his way up a little bit. And I think that is sort of solved by the end of the film. I think that's the arc that his character goes on, or one of the arcs that his character goes on, at least. By the end, he's more willing to give up his position in the company to stick up for his sort of morals and his sense of self, to become a mensch, as his neighbor, the doctor says. So yeah, I thought he was. I thought his performance was very good. In terms of actually, one other thing with the character, and maybe this is just a sort of looking back on it with modern eyes, but he does do a little bit of just sort of badgering, the elevator girl until she goes out with him. He just won't take no for an answer, and whenever they're talking, he's sort of very unaware of her. Her reactions, and the fact that she's obviously just going, oh my God, shut up. And he's just rabbiting on and on about his career and his, what he's going to be doing and all that kind of thing. And, he invites her on a date, and she's like, no. And he goes, oh, come on. And just sort of keeps doing that until she accepts. So there was an element from if you saw a modern character doing that, you'd think, well, you're being a bit of a dick. So it's just an artifact of the time that it was written, that was seen as sort of, romantic, or like it's part of the comedy or whatever. But that sort of struck me as being a little bit off to a modern audience, perhaps. But understanding it as a film of its time, it made sense. So yeah. I liked his character for the most part, and I liked the journey that the character went on. And I can see what Shirley MacLaine. I can't remember the character's name. Sorry,
it's Fran Kubelik.
Fran, that's right. I can see what Fran saw in him, and I can see why she initially wasn't that interested. I don't know what she saw in Mr. Sheldrake, in Fred McMurray's character, at all at any point, apart from he's rich. If it had just been she's with him because he's rich, fine. But like, she seemed to be genuinely emotionally caught up with him, and I didn't see at any point that he was doing anything that would be, that would cause her to have that kind of attraction to him. So, yeah. I don't know, but that's always the same kind of thing with these films. It's like it's there because it needs to be for the plot.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, first in terms of him, yeah. I mean, when I said ambitious, I didn't mean it as a positive trait. Yeah, I meant it as one of his flaws, or his main flaw, maybe. Yeah, and in terms of like him badgering her to going out, I think it is, like you said, partly a product of its time. It's just how it was. I think part of it is also they're just maybe trusting that the audience is going to like him so much because it's Jack Lemmon.
Yeah.
And I mean, I also got the feeling like he's probably never been great at, being around women or asking women out. Yeah. And this is just a woman he likes so much. And maybe also has an idea that she does like him. And that's maybe why he's so persistent. But I agree. I think it's also just because of the time. And like you said, like his arc that he goes on, like the reveal, the key thing at the end, when Sheldrake thinks he's giving him the key for the apartment, and he's actually just returning the key to the corporate restroom or whatever. It felt like such a big victory, a big moment for him. I thought it was a nice climactic moment.
Yeah.
And in terms of her liking Sheldrake, I think it's part of her character. I think does she talk about other, was there somebody else that she liked or liked her? And I think that's just kind of her thing. She's always going for the wrong guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of established, isn't it? She does mention like several previous like married men, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think maybe it's a, she does come across as very confident in some ways, but I think, that thing about her, going after married men and choosing the wrong men, maybe also says something about her, like own lack of self-worth.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. With the sort of his communication with her, I think that was actually another thing that kind of that he evolved in over time, because I felt like a lot of the time whenever they were having a conversation, it was basically him, like I said, him telling her about himself, not really asking her many questions, and there's only the bit when they actually have the period of time where she's staying with him after the suicide attempt, and then he kind of gets to know her. But it's not really him sort of inquiring into her; it's her sort of volunteering information to him. And I think he sort of learns during that period how to interact with her more genuinely. But like there's the bit at the office party, where he's sort of bringing her over, and she's just looking so weary and sick of it, and he's just whittling on about whatever his new office. Now his new hat and all that kind of thing. So I think like his character goes through, like I said before, several arcs. There's the arc of him becoming more, his actions sort of in line with his morals, and not willing to sacrifice his selfhood for his ambitions. And also him as like a person who's able to communicate with her and perhaps with other people more genuinely. I mean, he starts out as a very lonely figure, right? He's very alone all the way through, and I think that period of time that he spends with her in the apartment helps him to to learn how to sort of communicate a little bit and be in the world a bit more genuinely. So I think it's several different parts to his character arc.
What did you think of this? I mean, it is a comedy basically, but having a suicide attempt is sort of the kind of main central event.
I thought it was the funniest bit. I mean, it didn't shock me. It's basically a tonal shift, and I think that actually a lot of comedies work very nicely when they're built around a sort of dark central thing, which I think obviously that was it sort of stopped being comedy for a bit, and it just had this long period where it was all about sort of her character, her suicide attempt, what drove her to it, and him trying to look after her, but still failing and still sort of kowtowing to the wishes of Mr. Sheldrake when he phones up and all that kind of thing. So it didn't bother me, and it didn't seem out of place to have that kind of dark element. Although I was surprised that a 1960s comedy would have had that in it. So it was surprising but not shocking, I would say.
Yeah, and I think surprising also, like just to how relatively realistic they played it.
Yeah,
they pump her stomach and we hear her throwing up, and I mean it was a little uncomfortable to watch. The doctor slapping her around to wake her up and pouring hot coffee into her. But they, like you said, they kind of shift away from comedy for a while. But I think maybe that's maybe like one of the big strengths or powers of the film, is because they've now been presented to us as real people. We're so much more invested into how their story plays out. For the second part of the film after that happens. But then there is this kind of melancholy tinge to it. So even when he's trying to kind of lighten the mood by making the spaghetti and playing gin rummy, she doesn't just kind of snap back. She isn't fine all of a sudden. It's really only till the very last moment of the film where you get a sense that she might be okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that I thought worked really well in the film is that most of the characters felt like real characters. Him, actually, Jack Lemmon's character, a little bit less so, I would have said. Shirley MacLaine, Fran, feels like a real character. Mr. Sheldrake feels like a real character. They feel like real people that you'd meet. I mean, especially Shirley MacLaine. I thought she was the strongest part of the film, actually. She feels like, a particular, I don't know, kind of an archetype, but like an archetype that exists, of sort of a damaged person drifting through relationships, being a little bit lost in life, and making bad decisions after bad decisions. And I think we've all met or been that person at one point or another.
A potential manic pixie dream girl. Potentially,
although I don't think she's particularly manic. That's the thing, unless it's like manic depressive. I don't think she's. Right. I don't think she's particularly manic. I think she's got the haircut certainly, but I think she strikes me not as a manic pixie dream girl. She seems like quite a melancholy character. She seems all the way through the film that she's trying to find some kind of selfhood and some kind of happiness and some kind of actualization. But even her position working as an elevator girl is not what she wanted, right? It's what she's ended up doing through a series of bad or not ideal choices, and her relationships are all failing because, like you said, she keeps going for the wrong guy. Yeah, and she doesn't see Jack Lemmon as a potential partner for a lot of the film because, well, who knows? Well, maybe you've got a theory about that. Do you have a theory about that?
Not really. I mean, I think, well, she explicitly says at one point, she says, "I don't like myself very much anyway." Yeah, and maybe just doesn't think she deserves to be with somebody sort of that nice and normal. Potentially,
possibly.
I don't know.
But isn't there a bit of about him? Isn't there a bit of a nice guys finish last thing? It feels like to me.
He's too nice, you mean?
I mean, the when people say nice guys finish last, the guys who say that are usually not actually that nice, right?
Right. I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They're projecting that, I'm a nice guy. Why won't these bitches go out with me? Kind of
right.
thing.
Okay. He's the proto incel.
Yeah, well, I think there's a little bit of that in his character, and that's his sort of ambition to rise up the company. He thinks that's going to be impressive to people, but he's not putting in the work to better himself. He's just thinking about his status and I'm going to be higher up in the building. I'm going to be higher up at the top. There was a little bit about him, and up until the suicide attempt, that I felt was a little bit like that. He really wanted to go out with her, but I thought, but what's he done to make himself into someone she'd want to go out with up until that point? Like, even if she didn't know, she doesn't know about the apartment, but even if she didn't, what does he have to offer other than he's a smiley guy? He seems like a nice guy,
Yeah. So I think maybe that's, again, like you said, like part of his arc, part of his story arc, or his character arc, which is moving away from that. So yeah, he maybe has nothing else to offer except what he thinks that his position and his new hat will be attractive. There was and he also talks about his own flirt with suicide when he buys the gun. And I think I didn't really remember that, but I think this time when I was watching, I was thinking, oh, maybe he's just saying that to kind of say, oh, you committed suicide. Oh, I thought about that too. Like, trying to connect to her.
We've got so much in common,
Yeah, exactly. But then it turns out, he's at the end, we see when he's packing up, he does still have the gun. And so that's sort of the resolution or thing at the end when she thinks that he's shot the gun. Yeah. So I think he has, well, a couple of things. He does take care of her nicely, I think.
Yes.
He does a good job of trying to take her mind off everything, trying to make her laugh. And he's also, even when he finds out, she says a few times that she's in love with Sheldrake, and he's angry at Sheldrake for the way he treats her. Yeah. And he's still trying to help Sheldrake be with her, or her be with Sheldrake. So I think he is turning into like a genuinely good person.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think that whole period, like I say, when they're in the apartment together, is a big development point for his character. And I think he becomes a much more, he becomes the person that she can be with through that experience. Yeah. But I think, like, when I was watching it first, I was kind of imagining this is going to be a story of this nice guy who can't get a break, and then at the end he gets a break. And I think that he was, I don't know how clearly the film plays it as him being, kind of a problematic person. It almost seems to present it as everyone around him is sort of using him, and he's a bit of a doormat, but he's a nice guy. And I kind of think, well, maybe he's not that nice of a guy at the start. Maybe he sort of thinks he is. Maybe he outwardly presents as sort of a nice, meek guy, but maybe actually he's not really that nice. Maybe he's got some things to work on. He does work on them through the movie. But I was wondering, do you think the film is presenting him as a nice guy from the beginning, who has some issues to take, or do you think that it's presenting a much clearer character arc?
Yeah, I think it's presenting him as always being a decent guy. I think that's the sense we're meant to get. And I think we're even meant, maybe early on, and maybe it's trying to sort of catch the audience out, I think we're even meant to see his ambition as a good thing. But I think what the film does well is that it slowly turns that. So he's obviously annoyed that he has to give up his apartment in this way, but it sort of pays off when he gets his first promotion. But then, around the middle of the film, there is a moment when he gives in to somebody using his apartment. And then at that, I think there's a moment when, as the audience, we realize, oh no, that's the time he should have stood up for himself.
Yeah.
And then we're kind of hoping he will at some point. But yeah, I don't think it's presenting him as, going from a horrible person to a good person. I think it's
I'm not saying a horrible person,
no,
but a flawed person.
Right. Yeah. So I think like a decent but flawed person who maybe we can understand why he's living alone. To somebody who sort of improves himself, or I don't know if that's the right way, but yeah, who puts himself in but yeah, basically becomes a better person, and the type of person that somebody as nice as Fran could be with.
Yeah, there was also the bit at the end when he's leaving, and the doctor, his neighbor, finds out he's leaving, and he says, "Oh, you'll be missed." And I thought, really? Like, I haven't seen you have really any positive interactions with this guy, and your wife hates him. So,
yeah,
like it was almost like it's understood now that he's a good bloke, that he's a good dude.
Yeah,
everyone thinks so.
Right. I guess the doctor is sort of taking our perspective, even though the character himself, there's not much evidence for him to do it. I did get the feeling like the Dr. Dreyfus, like, does again recognize the decency in him.
Yes. Yeah. His wife doesn't, though.
His wife doesn't. Yeah.
No. For good reason.
The final line of the film. I mean, they pulled it off twice in a row. The year before they released Some Like It Hot, which you said you haven't seen. Is that right?
No.
So, do you know the basic premise of Some Like It Hot?
Is it they all dress up as women and that's it? Is that
yes. Well, no, a couple of them dress up as women to join an all-female band, basically to kind of, as far as I can recall, they're hiding from some mobsters.
Right.
But it also happens that they get to hang out with a bunch of women by the beach, including Marilyn Monroe. But there's a rich guy at the resort who takes a liking to Jack Lemmon's character as a woman.
Is that the bit at I've seen the scene at the end where he's like, "Oh, we can adopt. Oh, I'm a man. Well, nobody's perfect." That kind of thing.
Yes, yeah. So nobody's perfect is the final line.
Yeah.
Of that film. And I think I saw Billy Wilder had that on his grave. That sort of became his defining thing. I like the final line from this film even better. And the thing is, but I can't quite figure out why it works so well. But it's for me, it's just a fantastic moment. The very, very end of the film with the final line.
What was the final line? Remind me.
They pick up their game of gin rummy.
Yeah.
And he's nattering on as usual. And she says, "Shut up and deal."
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know why it works so well. I mean, it might be, it's the timing and everything. It's good performances, and I guess it does say something about their characters, or maybe says something about their relationship. But it always helps when a movie can nail the ending.
Yeah. No, I like that line as well. I think it was some. Well, it's him again being put in his place, but this time by not by one of the higher ups, not by someone in a position of authority over him, but someone in a position of emotional. What would you say? Someone with some kind of emotional hold over him. So I feel that was sort of saying something about his evolution as a character.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we'll see what we can come up with when we put these two films together. But we'll end our discussion of The Apartment there. Now it's time to head into the double feature challenge, where we try to identify the points that would make the movies complement each other as an awkward double bill. So, Rob, on the surface, there's a lot, sort of cosmetically at least, maybe that puts these films together. The time period. The sort of legendary Hollywood directors. But let's maybe think about the story and the characters. Did you find any connective tissue?
Well, I mean, the obvious thing, besides what you already said, is that they're both focused on a place. So maybe before we get to the characters, it would be a good idea to talk about the two places that are so central to the stories: the apartment and Hill House. They're both quite distinctive places. They're both places. Well, one thing we sometimes talk about these films being, these double bills being not necessarily complementary, but contrastive. One thing that struck me is that in the apartment, we get a really good idea of the geography of the apartment. We get a good idea of the sense of space, how the rooms relate to each other. Whereas with Hill House, we don't. For me, it's a much less cohesive space, and it's supposed to be a very kind of fractured and disorientating space. So I thought that it was interesting to look at how the two films focus on one central location, but they use the idea of the location in very different ways to, I don't know, in the apartment, I'm not sure quite how much it says about the characters, but I think it's necessary to the story to understand how that space operates and how the rooms relate to each other, because, we spend some time in the bedroom, some time in the bathroom, some time in the living room. We get to know all of those places, and they all play a different role in the story, and they also relate to how the action's carried out. Like, someone's in one room, and then someone comes in from the door and they have to hide and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I thought that the use of space and location was quite interesting. What did you think?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I was thinking it's almost a shame that the haunting wasn't called House Hill or the house. I guess that was used later on, but yeah. And so, like you said, in the haunt, I mean, there's even a scene where the doctor Markway, he kind of challenges Nell and Theo to find the dining room, whatever. And actually, I think Theo gets it right, and he gets it wrong in the end.
Right? That's right. He walks into the broom cupboard.
Yes, yeah. And then, so yeah, like you said, doors are often closed, except when they're not, except when they're flying open or slamming shut, etc. And in the apartment, I mean, we often have from the living room, you can see I think through the kitchen to the bedroom, right? Yeah, and having that sight line all the way. And so I think in both cases they built very intentional sets. The set played a big role in the telling of the story. So yeah, I guess definite connection there.
Yeah, I guess at the apartment, it's a very open space, which works because it's a very open space, that apartment. It's open to everyone. And we can see sort of intimately, like you say, from the living room into the bedroom. It's we can see from his sort of public area into his private area very clearly. So maybe it does say something about the character, the way the set's designed and filmed, in the same way that The Haunting of Hill House says something about maybe about Eleanor's mind, the sort of complicatedness and the opening and closing of doors and things like that. It speaks of a fractured mind. Yes,
yeah, and all the spooky stuff, the sounds and everything are coming from just on the other side of the door, so unseen, but compartmentalized and separated off.
Yeah,
and like you said, definitely, mirroring Nell's psyche, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay, how about the characters? What did you think about the characters?
Okay, I mean, we have Nell, who seems to fall in love with Dr. John Markway. Turns out he's married, although she didn't know it at the time. And then we have Fran, who is in love with Mr. Sheldrake, but she definitely knows that he's married.
Yeah.
So I guess two different takes on the married man being a creep by stringing along women even though they're married. I mean, Sheldrake is, it's the moment when he fires his secretary, his former lover and his secretary. That, I mean, there's a few moments throughout, like when he leaves the $100 for Fran as a Christmas present. But for me, it was when he fired the secretary that was like confirming him as a full-on villain. And Markway isn't presented as a villain as such, although there is a reading where maybe he is, if he's depends on the extent to which you think he's manipulating Nell. But they're both being secretive about relationships, right?
And they're both kind of manipulative about their work as well. Like Sheldrake's willing to put people in positions if it benefits him personally. He's willing to cut corners and things like that. And I think that Markway similarly is, when his wife shows up and sort of implies that he's a bit of a charlatan, that kind of thing. I think you get the impression that both of them have, a less than professional attitude to their work sometimes, perhaps.
Okay, and then maybe the bigger one is Nell and Fran. As characters. So, I mean, obviously there's the suicidal element of both of them. In one case, I mean, I think throughout the haunting, Nell kind of hints at, or maybe not even hints, she's sometimes a bit more explicit about her suicidal thoughts. And is it Theo at the end who basically says, I can't, or maybe it's the wife who says that, she drove into the tree on purpose.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, because Grace, the wife, says, right, or maybe it's somebody says, "Oh, you saying to the wife, Grace, it was your fault because she saw you and panicked and drove into the tree." And I think Grace says, "No, she was already driving to the tree. She just saw me at the last minute."
Right. Yeah, I can't remember exactly the order of speech there, but yeah.
Yeah. But so there's definitely, I mean, but regardless, whether it's intentional or not, there is definitely like a strong suicidal element to Nell, and then obviously with Fran as well. In Fran's case, it's, I mean, ostensibly it's about because, Mr. Sheldrake, she finds out that he's been seeing all these other women and that he's unlikely to ever leave his wife. But I think for Fran, it's more than that. I think it sort of goes back to this, I don't like myself very much anyway, aspect to her character. And with Nell, she never really voices it like that, but it is definitely this, I'm useless, nobody wants me around. Yeah. So I think there's, in other ways, very different characters, certainly, but they definitely share that trait.
Yeah, I can see all of that. I was also thinking that you mentioned Sheldrake's secretary. I thought that her and Theo had some points in common. Like they both have a thing about kind of teasing, Eleanor or Fran. They're both kind of, I don't know, they're both sort of insinuating information or insinuating ideas to them through the film that affect their mental state. So I thought there was some similarities between the way that they functioned in the life of our main female protagonist.
So I think those are two kind of very key points.
Yeah, I don't think there's that much more, but I think that there's plenty there in terms of, well, I think the central idea of of the two places and the way that they use space in a sort of contrastive way, but in a way that represents the inner lives of the characters. I think that's quite a good connection between them, and we've definitely got some character connections as well between our main female leads.
It would be great to see, like if CC Baxter's apartment was haunted, and if Sheldrake was using the house on the Hill House as a little getaway to take his dalliances.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd like that. I'd like that crossover.
All right, we'll ask AI to make those short films for us.
Yeah, we'll make a historically accurate version using AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's enough. I think we can recommend these as a double bill.
Yeah, I think they work surprisingly well as a double bill, actually.
That's the end of our awkward double bill for this episode. Are you a fan of either of these films? Do you now feel tempted to check out the other one? Either way, we'd love to hear from you.
If you have any comments or suggestions for future films, please send them to awkwarddoublebills@gmail.com. You can also follow the show over on Blue Sky at advpod.bluesky.social.